hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Brave the Wild is available on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Double Twist. Thank you once again for having me on board with you today. We're moving to a Thursday format, kind of coming off the Saturdays. I think it's a little better, frees up my Saturday mornings, and of course, I feel a little more ambitious during the week, so I figure this is a good format. Thursdays for Brave the Wild, Fridays for Timberwolves Explosion, and hopefully Sunday nights for Purple Mafia, but of course those shows are sporadic as well with the Vikings playing a lot of night games, but that kind of is what it is. Thank you for checking those out, some of you that have. The title of this episode is Reverse Psychology, and why is that? Well, because the Wild basically went backwards in both of these games. Going down 2 goals to Winnipeg, you come back and win, and going up 2 goals against Arizona and finding a way to lose. Utterly ridiculous. At the end of the day, you know what? It's becoming more and more predictable. The Wild do these furious rallies, as Judd Zulgad would say on AM 1500. Not that he needs a huge shout-out for me or anything, but I like the guy, and I like what he has to say about the Wild. Usually, he comes off as negative, but, well, he comes off as honest, too, because I'm realizing and understanding why some of the numbers might be down for this show, and it's a bummer. I hope it's not because I'm just the worst podcast ever. I don't think I am. I really don't. I think this is a very enjoyable Minnesota Wild show, and being able to get into the prospects as well, I think it really gives you a broad picture of the state of the Minnesota Wild on every show, and that's what I try to do, and also give us hope in the long term of certain players coming up and saving this franchise one day. That would be great. But the problem is, this Minnesota Wild team, it's literally like a script every single year. I mean, where do we begin? Should we start with a drum roll of some sorts? Well, so things kind of start off with Minnesota Wild. Well, Devan Dubnyk starts off spectacularly good, right? He usually starts off really good. Everything's going great. And then, okay, we have a nice backup who can hang in there, but he's not playing so well right now. Then the backup starts playing a little better. Dubnyk starts dropping off a little bit, and it's like he's getting tired. And then you come off this great start, and then you start struggling a little bit. But then you just keep playing Devan Dubnyk. Well, he's tired, but we're just going to keep playing him anyway, regardless who's the coach, regardless who's the GM, regardless who's the backup goalie. And it just continues to happen every single year. Dubnyk goes through his streaks, and the Wild continue to ride him out, despite the fact Alex Stalock is playing significantly better of late. Now, of course, we'll get into the reverse psychology of the 2 games, but let's look at the situation with the Minnesota Wild goaltenders. Devan Dubnyk in the first month, well, he was spectacular. That's, of course, the month of October, and it was nice to see how things went with him in a big way. Starting things out the month of October with, well, a goals against average of 2.19, save percentage almost 94. That's pretty damn good. 5-2 record in 9 games. And then 9 games in November, you go down to, 4-4. Goals against average 2.95, save percentage 88.5. That's great. No shutouts on the year, which is kind of interesting, but that's just how that goes. It's a trend every single year. And every single time Dubnyk starts to drop off a little bit, they don't waver one bit. They just let Dubnyk stay in there and struggle and get kind of mentally fried a bit. And Dubnyk is stubborn enough to never want to sit down. And then you have Alex Stalock stepping up and looking how good he's been. Obviously, he started out the season awful and everything. Save percentage about what Dubnyk's has been in November in the upper 80s. Goals against average 3.3. Though, some of the teams he was forced to go up against, and of course he was on the bad end of a back to back, where you had players with tired legs, this and that. But in the month of November, including one game where Dubnyk was pulled against the wonderful Ottawa Senators, just an awful game there. Goals against average 1.62, save percentage about 94. So there you go. It's again, I'm not expecting the Wild to hand over the starting reins to Alex Stalock, but I am expecting the Wild to, you got to give Alex Stalock more time between the pipes. And you got to give Dubnyk less time between the pipes, not because Dubnyk sucks, but because this happens every frickin' year. It's the same old story every frickin' year. You're stuck with the same guys, Suter and Parise. And you know what? They're playing awesome this year. Let's be fair about that. They're playing awesome this year, but at the same time, especially with, Suter coming back from the injury he's had. But again, we all can go on and on about how Suter's about the most high-maintenance player on that team, and I gotta say he probably is for multiple reasons. Again, he's close to the owner, and he was close to the owner when they were in Nashville together as well. And do not be surprised if Suter had a huge hand in the firings of both Mike Yeo and Chuck Fletcher. I would not be surprised one bit. Funny, the guy writes you a $99 million check, and you turn on him later on in time. The old confidants, as Michael Russo would say, I got to think Ryan Suter's one of the confidants. And, boy, he looked really sad when Mike Yeo was fired, and he looked really, really enthusiastic about John Torchetti getting hired as well. That was, you could just totally feel the enthusiasm from Suter. So I have a little beef with the guy over the years. As good as he is, as wonderful as he is, and losing him is like the worst thing ever. And we all know 19 points in his 24 games so far. He's been spectacular point producer. But the high maintenance side of Ryan Suter, again, almost like a dictator in terms of his minutes, a dictator in terms of how things are operated. I mean, he's too close to the owner, and it kind of scares people a little bit. He's a little LeBron James-like, I think, at times. And, of course, ultimately, who the guy pairs with. And you could kind of blame some of the lapses on what's going on here. Ryan Suter's desire to not play with Matt Dumba and to play with Jared Spurgeon. To play with his nookie blankie, so to speak. Ryan Suter and Jared Spurgeon, nice duo. But for some reason, beyond my understanding and beyond anybody else's understanding, Dumba and Brodin, it just doesn't work. And my God, did it look bad against the Arizona Coyotes? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Brodin just looked like a guy who's completely lost. And this is a guy who's a stalwart defenseman most of the time, but he looked like a moron against Arizona. Dumba looks like a moron most of the time defensively, but he's a spectacular offensive player, and we all know about the dumb bomb and then the shot that could break somebody's wrist in a heartbeat. And again, he's second on the team in goals, tied with Granlund, and only one behind Parise, who's been wonderful up by the net, kind of poking in goals at the last second, bouncing pucks, this and that. Parise with 11 goals. He has just been a wonderful renaissance for the Minnesota Wild this year. But again, you're stuck with their contracts, Parise and Suter, forever, and we talk about that all the time. And I got to think, again, that's why there's going to be some malaise regarding this team. That's why people have a hard time. Occasionally, they have a hard time selling out games. And then you have, again, shows like mine that I love doing very much. And the numbers are not what they were. And it's because of the malaise and because you're just seeing a lot of the same stuff again. You're seeing guys play well, and it's great, and you feel fantastic about it, but then you're seeing all the same trends again. Suter playing too much, Suter demanding who he's going to play with, and losing to the bleeping Arizona Coyotes. You're seeing the team make a nice comeback because of this whole reverse psychology situation. The 2-goal lead's the most dangerous lead in hockey. Well, I guess because it bit Winnipeg against Minnesota and it bit Minnesota against Arizona. But occasionally, just hang on to the bleeping lead, especially against the Arizona Coyotes. Ridiculous. Just effing ridiculous. I couldn't stand it. Let's get to the Winnipeg game before I drag this on any longer. 23rd of November, happy Black Friday, I suppose. But I do have a nice new TV for just over $300. Pretty amazing deal. And I needed an upgrade, and I got the upgrade. And, of course, I get to use the Christmas money on it. That's basically my plan. Don't buy me anything. Just give cash, and that's it. To my confidants, so to speak. And then that's easy. Easy to cover that. So $300 is not much for a 4K TV. So feeling good. And, of course, being a Samsung, that helps. And it's going to be great to watch Wild games on this TV. Nice upgrade again. But let's move forward. Minnesota ultimately winning 4-2, but it certainly didn't feel that way. The one thing, though, coming into this game versus the Arizona game, boy, but I think it's on both sides, the energy. Both sides, particularly in the first two periods. What the hell? Just Arizona sucked that hard that the Wild were up by 2. Excuse me. Winnipeg and Minnesota, this was a good hockey game. And Minnesota getting shots on goal, multiple opportunities, and Stalock made some spectacular saves. Some really tough situations. He was able to show that quickness and all that. And, of course, he has to have more quickness because he's not as big as Dubnyk. But then again, Dubnyk is slower because of his size. So it's an interesting strategy you have there. They're just completely different goalies, Stalock and Dubnyk, because of their size and their skill, this and that. Stalock looks awfully athletic because of that, but he has to be. He has to be quick. Otherwise, he's going to get beat every time. Stalock ultimately did get beat by Patrick Laine and Nicholas Ehlers in the game. At the end of the day, Winnipeg was up 2-0. Again, the power play for Ehlers, Patrick Laine, one of their best players in Winnipeg, one of many good players for that Winnipeg Jets team. that Stalock kept the Wild in it. He faced a lot of shots. The Wild, though, started shooting more and more. The Wild started becoming more and more aggressive. So many good chances that were ultimately stopped time and time again by Hellebuck. But the Wild just kept battling and kept getting the puck on net. And then Niederreiter with just sliding the puck on net and managed to get by Hellebuck, and that changed everything. Stalock's nice puck handling ended up getting his second assist of the year on the Niederreiter goal. Niederreiter just kind of skating towards the puck, kind of a Eric Stahl type of goal, you could say. Kind of just easing the puck towards the net, but not really getting much mustard on it, yet still got past Hellebuck. And there was a huge confidence booster for Niederreiter, who played significantly better the rest of the game, which doesn't say much about the Arizona game. In fact, not many people played well in that Arizona game, I'd have to say. Eric Fehr, also, who had an awesome game against the Winnipeg Jets and a pretty awful game against Arizona. It's just ridiculous how things can change this quickly. Eric Fehr finishing off a Dumba shot and a Dumba shot that ultimately was bouncing to Niederreiter, who ended up kind of slinging it towards the net a little bit, and then Eric Fehr was able to finish on that one, ended up tying the game. Eric Stahl, just the feeling, the emotion on this goal was just the most wonderful thing ever. Like, oh my God, we are going to win this game. Eric Stahl getting the rebound off of a juicy dumb bomb shot. Beautiful. Eric Stahl able to finish on that one, and the emotion on the guy's face and the excitement in that building. I mean, the Wild going up 3-2 with 2.5 minutes remaining. It was the greatest feeling ever, and oh my God, we're going to beat the Jets. Zach Parise was able to finish off from Jaron Spurgeon's pass, moving the puck forward, basically. Again, Suter and Spurgeon playing together there. Parise getting his 10th goal of the year in the month of November, so that's pretty cool. It's been a long time since Parise had 10 goals by the month of November, so that's pretty cool. As early as the month of November, I should say, where last year he didn't even play until Christmas, so until around Christmas time, so pretty cool to see Zach Parise playing as well as he is. And again, it's just an empty netter, but hey, it finished the game off. You better score on that empty netter, because we all know what can happen, because there was a minute left in the game, and we've seen the Wild lose in those situations with the extra man and, giving up that goal and then losing in overtime, which probably would have happened if that took place, because the momentum would have swung completely. Winnipeg extremely frustrated with the loss. Minnesota feeling like $1 million. And then, okay, we got a couple days off, and then here comes Arizona. We're feeling great. No, not a good game. A boring game all the way. Tuesday the 27th of November. This game was boring right out of the get-go. The Minnesota Wild led in shots, but it didn't seem like much energy was on either team in the first two periods. Lawson Cruz. I don't know. And then you get somebody called Josh Archibald. Okay, you know what I mean? He had 3 points in the game. Lawson Cruz, great. I'm happy for him that he scored and all that early on. Great for him, I guess. But then luckily Charlie Coyle off a tape-to-tape pass from Mikko Koivu. Beauty there, tying the game up pretty quickly. So it's like, damn, we were down 1-0 to Arizona, but okay, now we're okay, because Coyle finally got his 4th bleeping goal of the season. See, that's the other side of the spectrum there, with Parise having his 10th goal already near the end of November. Coyle's only got 4, and that's Coyle. That's the same old story. The goalie's in too long, and he kind of drops off, and the Wild end up losing in the first round of the playoffs because Dubnyk's not up to it, even though Dubnyk was good last year. But then everyone else kind of stopped playing. Like, Koivu wasn't good in the playoffs for the most part. Parise got hurt. That was the bummer. Obviously, there was no Suter. That didn't help. Zucker completely vanished. Stahl completely vanished. You could go on and on and on. All the guys that made, spectacular moments for the Minnesota Wild during the whole season last year did nothing against the Winnipeg Jets. It's just a script, and then you end up losing games like this every Mickey frickin' year. And I know you're going to have a bad game, but this was a bullshit game. Dumba and Brodin looked like morons in every one of the goals that would come up. But then again, the Wild would take a 3-1 lead, as mentioned. Zucker from far away made Antti Ranta look like crap. Parise was able to tip in a shot from Dumba. Again, Dumba, that's the whole thing with Dumba's dumb bomb. He gets assists off of that because of his shot. Not because of his passing, but because of his shot. And that helps. Again, getting those juicy rebounds because they're too hard to handle. Parise ultimately finishing with his 11th goal of the season on a bouncing puck. Just barely nicked the thing into the net, and that felt great. Antti Ranta, again, looked like crap against Zucker's shot. Zucker was far away. When you think Zucker scored, you thought, okay, it's some kind of a breakaway or some kind of a nifty move or a good pass from Granlund, you know how those guys kind of get those little one-timers going. But this one was far away. It was not a good goal given up by Antti Ranta. It's a good shot and everything. It was accurate and it was placed well by Zucker. Again, only his 7th goal of the year, which is extremely disappointing after that nice lucrative contract that was given to him in the offseason. Only 7 goals on the year. But, well, at least he got his 7th against a team that was from his part of the country, the Southwest there, Arizona. He grew up in Las Vegas and, of course, originally born in California. He's from the Southwest area. So cool to see him score against, teams that he grew up with, basically, in that region of the country. Felt good going into the 3-1 lead. We weren't playing that great. But then again, I mean, the numbers in this game told you. There's no reason in flying hell the Minnesota Wild would lose this game, right? There's no reason in hell the Wild would lose this game. Oh, but a 2-goal lead's the most dangerous lead in hockey. It sure is. More than halfway through the game, by the way, Arizona had only mustered 6 shots on net. Of course, one of them went in. That was very early again. Not a very good goal given up to one of the Arizona unknowns. That ought to be their new nickname because Clayton Keller isn't doing crap. And, well, Goligoski, there we go. There's a familiar name. Grabner, oh, Lord. Josh Archibald, a couple goals in this game. And neither one of them was a good moment, especially the 4th one. The one that was just a... That one was laughable, and it really was. But Dubnyk not sharp throughout the entire game. I mean, it's just like, just raise the puck on Dubnyk. Who cares? You're going to beat him almost every time, and I guess that's kind of been a tell forever. But sometimes Dubnyk is spectacular, this and that, and he's had some great moments. But I think Dubnyk needs to sit down a couple games here, and Stalock needs to ride Stalock's run here. I mean, isn't that how we used to handle things around here a little bit? Like the whole Manny and Roley, all that stuff, Dwayne Rollison. I'm not comparing Stalock to Dwayne Rollison or Manny Fernandez, but then again, maybe he's better than Manny Fernandez. He's more stable than that guy, I think. Rollison was awesome. He's more like the Dubnyk, I would say. More steady, so to speak. But then again, every goalie's streaky. You go through hot streaks. And I'm not saying have a platoon here, but I am saying Stalock should be starting like 30 games a year rather than less, like 18 it feels like. He needs to be getting more starts. It's really frustrating. Like 30, maybe even, like about 30 other than maybe 20 is probably what it feels like. But more than halfway through the game, the Wild were up by 2, 17 shots to 6. Arizona only had 6 shots on net. And it's just unbelievable. I mean, no life out of Arizona. And, of course, Antti Ranta, as awful as he had been, and he's an okay goalie. I kind of like him, but he looked awful in this game. And then you bring in a guy named who? Adin Hill. You can bring in a guy named Adin Hill. You figure, okay, that's it. I mean, goals against average is like 3, and he'd maybe been in a couple minutes the entire season, and no one's heard of him. He's basically the 3rd goalie because Mr. Darcy Kemper's not available. Maybe you would have wanted to see Kemper in there. Maybe. But Adin Hill, I mean, I don't know, man. Who's Adin Hill? I have no idea, but the Wild only mustered 5 shots on Adin Hill in the 3rd period, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. On all 3 goals, 2 by Archibald, 1 by Grabner. The 4th line was on the ice. Fair, Niederreiter looked like just they didn't know what they were doing. Brodin and Dumba looked completely clueless on the Grabner goal. That was the one that ended up tying the game. Both of them. Why are both of them behind the net? And then there's nobody in front of anyone in front of the net. There's nobody trying to stop. There's nobody trying to raise anyone's stick or anything. They're just kind of standing around, as Arizona announcers mentioned, picking roses when you watch the highlights and the goals and such. Because you have to see it again and again and again. You can't believe what you're watching. I mean, the guys are just standing there. Like, after the goals were scored, you wanted to replay it and replay it. Like, I had to replay it on the application after watching the game, this and that. You just can't believe it. Guys literally just standing around. And again, both defensemen behind the net. What's going on here? Why aren't you bodying somebody and raising their stick, knocking the puck away, getting the puck out of the zone? But none of that was happening. And the Arizona Coyotes ultimately tie the game. Again, the first Josh Archibald goal, not the best thing ever either. That was frustrating. That was really early in the 3rd period, and you knew we were in trouble there. The second Josh Archibald goal was a laugher. Alex Goligoski just planting behind his own net, just kind of waiting. You know, when you're going to get a little thing started, okay, we're going to get a possession started, we're going to try to get the puck past the center line into the zone, blah, 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 and then go from there. Maybe dump it in, who knows, and then try to dump and chase this and that, whatever the heck Arizona was going to do there. But no, nobody's even looking at Josh Archibald. They're just he's just skating right past everybody. A perfect pass by Alex Goligoski to prevent any type of a perfect time pass and perfect time play by Josh Archibald to prevent any type of an offside call. Now again, the first goal by Archibald, they tried to, the Minnesota Wild tried to say there was offsides, but that was ultimately not called. So I better mention that. It was not called offsides, and it wasn't offsides, and the Wild lose a timeout, this and that. Oh, goody. This one obviously was not offsides either. Perfectly timed pass, perfectly timed play by Archibald and Goligoski. Both Dumba and Brodin looking like complete morons. He went right through them. Josh Archibald went right through them, and they're kind of like, I wonder what that's all about. Oh, no! Perfect pass by Alex Goligoski, Minnesota's own, Minnesota native, blah, blah, blah. And Archibald scores with about with a good amount of time left in the third period. And again, the Wild only mustered 5 shots on net against Adin Hill, whoever the heck Adin Hill is. I mean Holden Hill. We kind of know who that is on the Vikings, right? Like the fourth cornerback, because we have to play him with the injury to Mike Hughes. Adin Hill, 5 shots. And Arizona ends up scoring 3 goals, and you get nothing against Adin Hill, who was just, just kind of along for the ride, basically, at this point. Whatever, man. Terrible. Reverse psychology. You're trailing against one of the best teams in the league. You come back and win spectacularly. You're winning, playing pretty well. You're not playing well, but you're outplaying a team because they're not even showing up, basically, by 2 goals, and they find a way to beat you on your home ice. And it's just like, okay. It just kind of leaves you like miffed, shocked. What the flying, F-bomb was that? Can I do this? Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do everything, damn it. I can do it, and I will. The Mike Modano / Neil Broughton Award for this episode is going to be Alex Stalock. That's right, Alex Stalock is getting it because he was wonderful in that against the Winnipeg Jets. He was awesome. Just giving up a couple first period goals and was awesome the whole time against Winnipeg. He was one of the most valuable players out there. It's going to be Alex Stalock. As for, and you could say Parisi's an honorable mention because he just scores in every game. And, he was okay. He was good. You didn't really see him getting embarrassed out there too much. The James Shepard Memorial is going to both Brodin and Dumba. And you know what? It could go to Suter, too, for causing this mess. Him and his high-maintenance bullcrap attitude, constantly forcing this and that. And yes, Dumba is just obnoxiously bad defensively sometimes, and more often than he needs to be, and it's costing us games. His offense is so good that it's keeping us in games, and it's helping. He always tends to get almost every game he winds up with something. He'll score on the dumb bomb, or he'll wind up with an assist because of the dumb bomb, and he did get an assist in this Arizona game, but he was so horrifically bad in this game, as was Jonas Brodin, both of them at -4. Horrifically bad in this game that both of them strongly deserve the James Shepard Memorial, and Devin Dubnyk has been awful as well. He was awful in this game, but the defense in front of him was worse. So that's why it's not going to Devin Dubnyk, even as icky as he was. Koivu, phenomenal in the faceoffs. I got to mention this. It's like you look at this, you can't believe what you're looking at. Koivu dominated, owned Arizona in the faceoff circle. 15-3. 15 wins, 3 losses. That is a remarkable statistic. It's just the puck possession by the Wild in the first 2 periods. You thought this game was theirs, and they got lazy and they screwed around too much. One thing that I should mention, too, before we move on to the second segment, in fact, I almost should talk about it in the second, but I'll talk about it here and now. The Western Conference is getting pretty tight again, and it's kind of interesting when you look at the standings because guess who's just 3 points behind the Wild and only 1 point out of the playoffs? The team that couldn't score for their life. The team that a lot of people thought was just, and it was playing more like the expansion team we thought they were. The Vegas Golden Knights. They're a +4 now. They're only 1 game above 500, but they're 1 point. That's right, 1 point behind the Winnipeg Jets. But then again, the Winnipeg Jets have 3 games in hand, though, versus Vegas. So, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. 2 points behind Dallas, though. Dallas is the number 1 wildcard team with 29 points, and they have played 26 games just like Vegas. So Vegas Golden Knights are catching up. Vancouver's going back down to reality. They are completely out of the playoffs already again, which is sad. And Anaheim's kind of back in it, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Vegas Golden Knights overtake the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. I think they can beat them. Sharks and Flames are the class of the Pacific Division, which so far hasn't been saying a whole lot. Good for the Calgary Flames, though, to be moving up a bit. So, Yeah, I passed out the awards. Let's look at the schedule before we look at the schedule and talk about the upcoming games heading into the second segment here. And of course, the Wild play the Columbus Blue Jackets on the 29th. I actually already previewed that game in the last show because just in case I was going to go back to Saturdays. So Minnesota will play Toronto on Saturday. That's interesting. Yep, tonight, of course, against Columbus. Vancouver Canucks on Tuesday. So it's going to be a similar kind of schedule. Saturday and Tuesday, again, a couple of days off. So that's a road game against the Vancouver Canucks and a road game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Not an easy schedule. Minnesota doesn't usually play well in Vancouver for some reason, even though, I don't know. Hopefully the Wild do, because Vancouver's going down the hill big time. And then you get the Alberta two-step, Calgary and Edmonton. That'll be kind of fun on the road there. That is next Thursday and Friday. That'll be fun to preview those in Montreal. So Minnesota is in Canada next week. Of course, starting off in Vancouver as well. So, yes, all next week and into the week after for a little bit. Playing the Flames a couple times. The Saturday, the 15th of December. Fun. Those will be interesting tests for the Minnesota Wild, and we'll see how that goes. It's not been pretty, though. With that, I'll take a quick break, and let's get to segment number 2, damn it. Segment number 2, looking at some previews and, of course, jumping into the prospects and moving on from there. Of course, tonight, November the 29th, we wrap up the month of November against the Columbus Blue Jackets. I did preview this on the last show, but I'll kind of briefly go over it again, I suppose, very briefly. Going against Sergei Bobrovsky, who's going to be a free agent in the offseason. And Temi Panarin's one of the top scorers on this club, obviously setting up other players. Cam Atkinson has always found a way to score against the Wild in the past, and he's got 15 goals. Much stronger this year than last year. An awful year last year after a huge year before when he tortured the Wild on New Year's Eve. And Columbus kept their gigantic franchise streak going and ended the Wild's franchise streak. Both teams with completely identical records, 14-8-2. So kind of cool to see these two teams playing well. Both be making the playoffs and all that. Second in the Metropolitan Division at this time. They were first a week ago on Thanksgiving Day. Minnesota third place in the Central Division, and it won't be easy. Teams like Nashville, Colorado, and freaking Winnipeg. Winnipeg is the wild card. You still got Colorado now ahead of Minnesota. Oh, Lord. I don't like the way this team plays against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets have been basically win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. And if the pattern continues, the Wild beat the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. I hope so. I doubt it. Somehow I think Columbus is going to win 2 in a row, but we'll see. So far it had been win against Carolina on the 17th, loss at Toronto on the 19th, beating Toronto the same score 4-2 on the 23rd, many days later. Back-to-back losing to Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh 4-2, beating Detroit in Detroit 7-5, and now Minnesota. So hopefully the pattern continues and the Minnesota Wild can beat the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't like this matchup, though. I don't feel good about it. I do have a feeling the Wild go 2-1 this week, and partially I'm trying to stay positive. Obviously, maybe a game like the freaking Phoenix Coyotes wakes a team up. I want Alex Stalock in net tonight. If Alex Stalock is in net, the Minnesota Wild could win this game. I think if Dubnyk's in net, unless he somehow magically is like, bleep this, I'm way better again, the Wild probably don't win the game. I'm picking the Columbus Blue Jackets to win 4-2, something along those lines, maybe 5-3 with an empty netter. It'd be like 3-3, 4-3. Cam Atkinson will score against the Wild because he always does, and he's having a really, 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 really good year. Nick Foligno will be going against his brother. That'll be fun because Marcus Foligno's playing a lot better this year compared to last. He's found his role, and he's doing a really good job, and he's had some really nice scoring chances the last few weeks here. Marcus Foligno's due for a really good scoring game here. It'd be nice to see it happen one of these days because he deserves it. I like Marcus Foligno, and the Wild do too. But Columbus ultimately wins the game 4-2, 4-3, more than likely an empty netter, making it a 2-point game. I want Alex Stalock in net, but I'm not confident the Wild will go in that direction. Toronto Maple Leafs says the Wild will be playing Canadian teams 5 games in a row. and 6 out of the next 7, with Florida mixed in between Montreal and Calgary the upcoming week. Toronto Maple Leafs coming to XL Energy Center Saturday, the 1st of December. Nice way to start out the month of December against Toronto. So much history. I miss when Toronto was in the Norris division with the Minnesota North Stars, because yes, this is as much a North Star show as it is a Minnesota Wild show. It's just the fact that the the North Stars aren't active anymore. They're the Dallas Stars, so they don't exist anymore, and this and that. But they do exist in our hearts, and of course, they do exist on the shelves. Thankfully, they're still on merchandise shelves, and they're selling well everywhere. I've got 2 hats right over there. That's why you saw me turn around. I've actually got 3 or 4, I think, but 2 in this room right now. I got 3. 4. One of them was a freaking 5. 2 of them were actually when they became the Stars with the North Stars still. They were here, but they had that freaking Stars logo. 3 of them, though, with the N Star. So 5 North Star hats. It's a bit excessive. Frederick Anderson started out the year not so great. He was actually on my fantasy team, and my stupid ass traded him. Idiot. I feel so stupid. Ugh. And the Toronto Maple Leafs are an offensive juggernaut. Their power play is 5th in the league. They've scored the 7th most. They've given up the 7th least goals, which is great because Frederick Anderson has really come around. They're 2nd in the league in goals scored. Toronto is what Edmonton wishes they were, and they're tied with the Buffalo Sabres because Buffalo's the best team in the Eastern Conference basically right now. Buffalo, yeah, that is a surprise team. I did pick them to surprise this year. I thought they were turning things around. I didn't pick New Jersey to surprise. I hope I didn't. I did. Yeah, I was saying Buffalo was going to turn things around and was going to fight for a playoff spot. Like maybe they'd make it as an 8th seed. Maybe they wouldn't. They're going to have home ice in the playoffs, I think, at some point. They may not be the number 1 team in the East, but they're going to have home ice. They're going to be a top 4 team in the East this year, and good for them. It helps having good goaltending. And when your young prospects all at the same time start to kind of come around and start to show what they can do, kind of like the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? They have a lot of nice young talent on this team. And, of course, a free agent acquisition of John Tavares, who leads that club in scoring with 17 goals. Leads the club in goals, anyway. Mitchell Warner is the overall leading scorer with 30 assists on the season. Top-line center has been spectacular. 9 power play assists, 10 power play assists for Morgan Riley. Austin Matthews has missed a significant amount of time, but when he's been available, he's got Lemieux-like numbers. Jeez, 19 points in only 12 games. Mario Lemieux-type numbers there for Austin Matthews. Not sure about his status there, unfortunately. Patrick Marleau, the former San Jose Shark, wily veteran, whose numbers are higher this year because he's around some really damn good players in Toronto. Frederick Anderson, 14-7, 2.26 goals against average. The Leafs lost to Carolina and Columbus back-to-back on the road, and then have won 3 in a row since. Minnesota will be their next game, so they're going to have quite a few days off after beating the San Jose Sharks 5-3. 6-0 over Philly, who's now the worst team in the East, which is kind of crazy. Toronto beating Boston 4-2. These are all home games, and the San Jose Sharks, the ever-improving San Jose Sharks, shout out to Chris Stortz out there in Northern California. I could have gone on his show the last time we played, and I didn't get back to him because I didn't even see the message because I was so busy with the lawns and all that, and I didn't even check. And I'm really sorry, Chris Stortz, if you're listening. If you're just happening to listen again, Teal Town Podcast, a group of guys there working together, making a really, really nice podcast called the Teal Town Podcast. Again, San Jose Sharks. They do it after every game, post-game and all that. And then they have some regular shows as well. Awesome podcast and highly worth subscription to you out there. As long as you don't hate the Sharks, which I don't. I don't hate them. They're much more likable than the freaking Blackhawks. Gosh. And most of the other Western Conference teams. Freaking Kings now piss me off. But then again, they suck so bad they don't piss me off anymore. I love the Kings now. Love them because we can beat them. Somehow, some way, we actually beat the Sharks sometimes. But, boy, for a while, the longest time, the Sharks used to chomp the Wild. Pun not intended. Interesting situation going on there. Again, also with Nylander in Toronto, and a lot of people hoping the Wild would muster up the guts to make that trade to get Nylander. Also, you'd probably have to guarantee $8 million a year to him as well in a contract, and I'm not sure the Wild have the cap space to do that. In fact, I know they don't, so you'd have to give up some expensive contracts in order to even get Nylander. Maybe you'd have to say bye-bye to Jason Zucker. Boy, I would be kissing the ground, or the ice, whatever it is. I would gladly kiss freezing cold ice if we traded Niederreiter away. Hey, he played well. He put the puck on net and it went past Bobrovsky. He scored against Sergei Bobrovsky. So come on. Come on, Toronto. You want Niederreiter, man. Take on that $5.25 million contract. Take it on. Come on. 5.25 a year. Only 4 years remaining. Come on, do it. Yeah, right. But that's basically what you'd have to do. Get rid of some serious dead cap, basically, which is what Niederreiter's been the last year or so. Extremely frustrating. But I don't know. Maybe the Wild somehow beat Columbus and then lose to Toronto. I don't know. This Toronto team is great. They haven't played well on the road, though. That's the one hope. And the Minnesota Wild home record is really good. So I guess I'm going to have the Wild losing to Columbus and having a wonderful, fun game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sure Devin Dubnyk will be in net for this one. Maybe, please sit him against Columbus. Have him come back and have a nice, inspired effort against Frederik Andersen and Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a tough freaking game. Garrett Sparks is their backup goalie, and he's not bad either. He's got Stalock-ish kind of numbers, 2.57 goals against average, 4-1 on the year. Both Sparks and Andersen have shutouts on the year. Andersen is done 93%, Sparks is 92-ish. Somehow, some way, I think the furious rallies, as Judd Zulgad calls them, somehow win this game 3-2. Something along those lines, and I think the most likely guy to score for Minnesota in this game. Let's go with Granlund. I have a feeling Granlund's going to score against the Toronto Maple Leafs and help us feel a little bit better. Let's do that. Granlund's going to find the net against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Minnesota has an inspired effort to win 3-2 over the Toronto Maple Leafs. A shocking game. Devin Dubnyk is lights out. He stops 38 to 40 shots in the game. 38 of 40 shots and wins the game. The Wild put on about 35 or something on Andersen and managed to get 3 past him and win the game. Guys like Parise and Granlund, I think, are going to score in the game. Let's move on. The Vancouver Canucks, after another couple days off, after an inspired effort against the Toronto Maple Leafs, is this yet another trap game against a team that's not playing well on the 4th of December? The Vancouver Canucks. Yes, it's another trap game. It is. But I think Vancouver's playing so awful right now, Minnesota needs to win the game. The Vancouver Canucks won out of their last 5. They lost to Winnipeg 6-3, Anaheim 4-3. San Jose shut out by Adam Jones there. 4-2 win over Los Angeles because everybody beats LA. And then they lost a couple of days later to Los Angeles, 2-1 against Budaj there. Whew. Jeez, that's like their third goalie now. Campbell and, of course, Quick out forever, basically, with knee injuries. That's crappy. Vancouver has to play Vegas, which I think they'll lose, and Dallas, maybe they'll win that one and then save that. They'll use all their effort up on the in that game, and then they'll play Minnesota. We'll see what happens there. Brock Besser, again, is back. He has missed some games, but he's played a couple games recently. Been a little better. 11 points on the year in the 14 games he's played, Brock Besser. Unfortunately, Louis Eriksson has gotten silent, so a little bit of Jason Pominville syndrome. Great start to the season and nothing much after that. Bo Horvat, though, continues to be the MVP of that team, even though Elias Pettersson has been pretty damn good as well with his 13 goals and 21 total points. He's on pace for 82 points on the year. Pettersson has missed a significant amount of time, but has been extremely efficient when he's been out there. Bo Horvat, kind of the overall MVP of the team this year, I'd have to say. A young and improving player as well. 22 points for him. Jacob Markstrom's 500 on the year. Goals against average is awful. I mean, he's been terrible. About the same as Aiden Hill so far. And, of course, no shutouts for anybody. Anders Nielsen's not been good. Richard Bachman went out there and got shelled. He played a full game and gave up 6 goals. So, yeah, that was a tough night for him against Minnesota Wild. That was us, actually. Not sure where to go with that one. Jacob Markstrom, I hope he doesn't have one of his, and I'm sorry for snapping my lips so much. I hope that Jacob Markstrom doesn't have one of his good games against Minnesota. He's been awful lately. For me, there's no excuse. Minnesota needs to win this hockey game, and they will. 4-2 victory for Minnesota. Most likely got to score in this one. We'll go with... We're going to go with Zucker. He's going to score against the Vancouver Canucks. Minnesota's got to win this thing 4-2. They got to get on this team early and often. If you're going to be serious and, maybe, hopefully, prove us wrong that this isn't the same old story. But if it is the same old story, the Wild find a way to lose a game like this on the road. A trap game where the team that's not been playing well after an awesome start to the season. They've been playing awful. There's no excuse. Minnesota needs to win this 4-2. I will pick they will, just to be on the safe side. I think the Wild win this game, and they should. Odds are they should, even though Minnesota Wild odds are it's 50-50 the way they play against these yucky teams. But with that, again, a 2-1 week, and hopefully heading in the right direction some more here for Minnesota, as we need it in the worst way at this point. After a couple of yucky games, Minnesota comes out with 34 points and hopefully gains some ground in Colorado, but I don't know, they're 15-6, and Nashville's 15-7, and they're the two best teams in the Western Conference with a bullet right now, Colorado and Nashville. Colorado is 25 plus. That's best in the league. 22 plus for Nashville. And Buffalo is 26 plus for Toronto. They're best in the league. So, and I'm picking us to beat them. Both of them, Buffalo and Toronto, with 36 points as well. Insane when you look at that. Tampa Bay Lightning 1 point behind Toronto and Buffalo. They're in third place in that Atlantic Division. You look at the Metropolitan Division, you think it's all that with Columbus, Washington, and Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh stinks so far this year, which is good. I'm happy about that. And then you go to the Atlantic Division, and you're just blown away. I mean, before you thought about teams like Ottawa and such, like who cares? They suck. Those are like your division leaders a couple years ago. Now you got Buffalo, Toronto, and Tampa. Jeez. You can actually say Buffalo's good, and they are. So, interesting. With that, let's take a look at the prospects. And let's dive right into the Iowa Wild. They haven't been playing as good of late. Luckily, not as bad either, you could say. And again, not playing so well of late. Cal O'Reilly, 21 points on the season. Mason Shaw, 16, 13 assists. He's definitely been keeping guys active out there. But generally speaking, Iowa's been losing a couple games of late. Kaapo Kähkönen showing he's mortal, but still, goals against average is just dazzling. 1.35. Lost in extra period again, unfortunately for him. He's got a couple of extra period losses and then a regulation loss. Still the 3 shutouts on the year, though. Again, a dazzling 1.35 goals against average. Last week, Kaapo Kähkönen actually was the backup goalie with Alex Stalock in net because Devin Dubnyk was hurt and Andrew Hammond was hurt. CJ Motte from the Allen Americans again. He was with the Minnesota Wild's affiliate the last couple of years as well with the Quad City Mallards and the Rapid City Rush the last year. CJ Motte up there though and gave up 4 goals in a loss in a game last week. Luke Cunning's gotten quiet, and unfortunately, it's pretty much been all minor leaguers scoring. Dmitry Sokolov added his 6th assist recently, which is nice, but that's about it. Sam Honest hasn't been scoring. Kyle Rao, he had a good game late in the week. He's at 15 points, 3rd on the team overall in scoring. But generally speaking, it's been the minor leaguers that have been doing the scoring lately, which is a little frustrating. Belpedio, I believe, did add an assist the past week again. He's at 6 points total in the 20 games, but again, his defense has been the story more than his offense, and he's a +6 for Iowa, so that's great. Brennan Mennel, young, 21-year-old Woodbury native, undrafted. Brennan Mennel is a +10. That's awesome. That's awesome. 2nd on the team, so Brennan Mennel really showing something, and I think he will skate for Minnesota one day, and he'll be a wonderful story. I think both him and Belpedio hopefully will skate for the Wild at some point. The unfortunate part is both of them are short right-shot defensemen, so they're similar that way. Belpedio's got the got a little more pedigree, but both of them again playing great for Iowa so far this year. Mennel slightly ahead, even though he's missed 5 games on this season. Nothing really notable so far for Ottawa, or in the past week. Again, it's mostly been minor leaguers scoring. So unfortunately, the major prospects have not factored as much, other than Kaapo Kähkönen's goals against average continuing to be good, but he's had a couple of overtime losses, unfortunately for him. Let's do Sam Hench's watch. He up 10 games. He's stuck at 6 points. So again, that strong start hasn't led to much since then. Jack McBain, the 3rd-round pick this past year, only stuck at 2 points in the 7 games. Again, he missed a couple of weeks to start out the season, unfortunately. Kovanov watch, as we look at the prospects some more, 32 points for him. He's got 15 goals for the Moncton Wildcats. Nick Swaney with Duluth, 9 points on the season. Again, adding 1 more. He added another assist this past week, so 9 points on the season in his sophomore year for Duluth, 7th-round pick. I love these 7th-round picks. Oh, I do. Can you tell, right? Jack Sadik and the Gophers had a frustrating week, but he's at 5 points on the year, so hey, he's already more than halfway towards his whole total points last year. Only 11 games for Jack Sadik, the senior and future Iowa Wild right-shot defenseman again, as he's on the top pairing. But again, nothing. He doesn't stand out all that much. Physical, bulky defenseman. for Michigan. Nick Boca has had 4 assists on the season, so he had nothing for the longest time, but had a big couple of weeks here for the University of Michigan. Nick Boca. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if he found his way to Minnesota. He's got a little Steeler in him, but he's not as big as Nick Steeler, but still a bit of a factor. Brennan Durham, very quiet. He's actually been scoring goals this year, which is crazy. He's got more goals than assists, where in the past it's been all assists, more of a Jordan Greenway type in college for the junior of Providence. Brennan Durham from Parkland, Florida. 8 points in his 13 games. Again, 5 of them goals. So solid season for him, but nobody's really getting you all that excited. Jacob Golden hardly ever scores. He's a stay-at-home defenseman for the London Knights, the London Knights of the OHL. I'm just messing around. 6 points, one of them goals so far for them in the 21 games he's been in the OHL. Let's look at Ivan Ladnia. He's one of the top guys. In fact, he is our top guy in the OHL this year. The last couple of years, it was Dmitry Sokolov. Well, he's got a point a game, 7 goals in the year, a point a game so far, 23 overall points for Ivan Ladnia. More of a playmaker type as well. As the Wild, basically, they're filled with playmaker types. It's just this guy's a playmaker. There's so few guys that are natural goal scorers. The only one is, again, Kirill Kaprizov, and it is what it is. I got to mention this as well. When I was talking about the Vegas Golden Knights kind of turning things around and getting better, well, one of the main reasons the Vegas Golden Knights are a lot better than they were earlier this year is because a guy's at over a point a game, a familiar name. And no, it's not Eric Holla, who's got a lower body injury, and he's month to month. He was pulled off on a stretcher a couple of weeks back, and that was unfortunate. I didn't even mention it on the show because I have so much other stuff to talk about. But a guy named Alex Tuch, who had 37 points last year, okay, he was all right. That's nothing great, 15 goals, but, a factor, right? Well, this year, in the 18 games he's been able to play, he's missed a few, 19 points, 8 goals, 11 assists. Alex Tuch, a major reason why the Vegas Golden Knights are actually scoring again, because they weren't scoring crap. Remember, you had Ryan Reeves with 4 goals, and he was the leading goal scorer on the team. Ryan Reeves is having a pretty good year offensively. For his standards, he's having a spectacular year. He's Mario Lemieux, basically, compared to himself in the past. But, Alex Tuch has been extremely good for the Vegas Golden Knights, so now he's starting to look more and more like a loss. Ironically, though, Matt Dumba is only 1 point behind, and, of course, he's a defenseman, so shows you what a valuable offensive weapon Matt Dumba is. You just wish his defense is a little better. Tuch, though, having a very, very good month of November in the Vegas Golden Knights, turning things around a bit, so good for them. With that, I think we can just about wrap up the show. In fact, we will want to encourage you to follow the Twitter account, @BraveTheWild, to give that a follow. Want to thank Vince Germano for retweeting the most recent show. Always appreciate you out of Australia for that. And then on Facebook, it is facebook.com/BraveTheWild. Facebook.com/BraveTheWild. Do give that a like. Join it and comment on there. Would appreciate some more interaction because I know you guys are out there. Appreciate a little more of that. I get some likes here and there, but I don't get any comments. That's the frustrating part. So it's been a bit quiet. You can also join the show with the phone lines, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. It is a voicemail. Do treat it as such. Mention you're calling in for Brave the Wild and do your statement, shout out, comment, question, and opine. There's also the Call Now button on the Facebook page. It does the same thing through Facebook Messenger. Goes to the same phone line, same whole thing. It's a 3-minute limit, by the way, because it is a voicemail. So the unlimited route, though, is the audio submission route, which you use the free voice recording application on any smart device on the planet. Just use that, save it, send it to paladinolive@yahoo.com, paladinolive@yahoo.com, and there it is. I can convert it into an MP3 file if necessary, which is very easy to do thanks to zamzar.com, which I'm happy to plug, even though, because of what they provide. It's wonderful. So it's a wonderful website. So highly recommend it if you're a podcaster looking to convert an MP3 file quickly from a phone call or something. So very, very valuable. Please do rate Brave the Wild on iTunes if you could. That would be very, very, write a positive rating if you could. It would be very, very much appreciated. I'll give you a shout out and a thank you on air, unless you don't want me to, but I would hope you wouldn't mind me doing that. So again, please tell your friends about the show. Greatly appreciate it. If you want to help, that's the best way to do it. So again, God bless, and hopefully the Minnesota Wild can get a little more consistent. Hopefully we're not on a script. Let's get off this script. Let's break this pendulum we've been on forever. So it's time to kind of start moving in the right direction long term. But again, we'll just have to wait and see if that's for real. And this upcoming week will be a nice little test.